Hello, my name is Anthony Lewis. I am a math interventionist, a para actually, being used as a math interventionist here in the Colonial School District at Wilbur Elementary School. Um, and I would like to go over the importance of parent participation. Um, over working with kids in different aspects throughout the past about 15 years, I've noticed even when I worked in nonprofits and working with summer camps, it does not matter. The success of a student or success of a child, the parent participation is extremely important. And us as teachers or us as educators, we to some extent dictate the amount of parent participation that we can allow, especially in the times that we are in now today. Things have changed since I was younger. Um, there's a whole another aspect of technology and many several things here. Um, so as we move along, all right. So what is parent participation in special education? Parent participation varies in several different ways. According to the IDEA, which is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, it is required that parents are involved in with all IEP decisions for their child. As a parent, you have the right to participate in all your child's IEP meetings, and in fact, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, the federal law governing special education, lists parents first on the list of required members of a student's IEP team. So when making an IEP for a student who you would believe should have an IEP or has special needs, the number one person to go to is always a parent because one, that person, that parent, there's nobody who cares more about that student than their parent at all. Two, the person who sees the child who we are discussing more is the parent. So that parent will be able to give you ins and outs of what maybe is the triggers of some of the issues that the child has, what benefits a child that they've noticed over the years that you might not know because you're just meeting the child. It's many different things that we'll be going over in today. So we have current issues with parent participation, but there are several, but the ones that we will be going over today. Issues with parent participation is number one to me is lack of communication. Lack of communication goes so far with the many issues that lie ahead. We'll see with the five cases that I've prepared for us to read at the end of the presentation. But communication is everything, especially when it comes to IEPs or just the success of a student. If you see something or you're noticing a pattern of things, pro or con, things that are negative or positive, you need to communicate that with the parent. We will get into that more. What parents' rights to participation according to IDEA laws and how this can help us with our jobs. So, with the IDEA laws, and I'll be tripping over that word because I just want to say IDEA laws, but IDEA laws, um, the parent rights, as we spoke about it with IEP, and that's just one aspect of it. But with the IEP meetings, they have the right to be involved, and they're supposed to be involved in all IEP meeting or IEP decisions. This is not a knock or a hindrance on teachers. Actually, you should try to find it. Try to find a positive way to put this into your repertoire per se, or into what you're doing. If you find a way to have communication or parental rights or parents participating with the IDEA laws and how it can benefit you with your job as an educator, everything gets easier, and we will go over ways of how to do that. Um, a socioeconomic or cultural background can be troubling. All right, current issues, that is a current issue. Not to harp on this, but as a black man, I have realized while working in public education, there are not a lot of black men in public education or education in general, especially which I'm teaching K through 5. I recently had a a professor ask the class, how many of you guys ever had a black man as a teacher from K through 8? Not in high school, just K through 8. One person out of 30 raised their hand. And I thought that was alarming to some extent because most of the students who we are teaching in these inner cities or in public schooling are African American, or depending on where you are. But I know for Colonial School District, which we're speaking about our district as right now, Colonial School District, and we'll show the numbers, are majority minority. So to understand the background of that child, sometimes you need to either be from there or, again, like the first issue, a communication needs to be had between the background or the parents or the guardians because there is a disconnect. We will also touch that. And we'll go over resources that you can benefit from. This goes for everything above. I'm not only going to be speaking about this with everyone, we will be going over different resources, how we can address these issues that we are now speaking about. And last but definitely not least, relatable cases that go along with parent participation, and we will get basically a taste of, when it goes wrong. All right. And of course, once we already spoke about the presentation will guide all general education teachers, administrators, and staff with proper tools on the importance of participation in your class and solutions to some of the recurring issues surrounding parent engagement. All right, and here at the Colonial School District, which we are teaching from, Colonial School District is based in southern Newcastle County in mostly suburban areas. Minority enrollment is 72% of the student body, majority black, which is more than the Delaware public school average of 56% of majority black. Colonial School District, which is ranked within the bottom 50% of all 41 school districts in Delaware. Right? This goes to what we were just speaking about in the last slide. I believe that, again, in the Colonial School District, with the 72% of the student body being minority, and the majority of the minority is black, you would think the faces that need to be, I take that back. You would think that these students will relate more to faces that they see more, if that makes a little bit more sense. So if they live in an environment where there's majority of black people living, but then they come to a school and then have to they're being taught by somebody who does not live in the same area they're from or from that or have ever been from that area. It's hard to connect with a person emotionally or even empathize with a person if you've never been in their shoes ever. And sometimes it's all just about the willingness of you wanting to be from their shoes. We know them. There's some teachers who have their rules, have their ways, and they just stand on that. You abide by these, and that's okay with certain things. But you have to bend. You have to bend to whichever way your class is. Each year is a different class. Each student is a different student. So you have to bend for those students the best that it's going to help them. We're going to go back to the stats. Oh, but no, how do the stats help us with our parent participation? We kind of just spoke on that. Understanding the demographics of the families are important to parent participation. It allows you as the educator to reach the families where they are most comfortable. That's important. It allows you to, as the educator, to reach families where they are most comfortable. It does not matter where you're most comfortable, or you're trying to bring them into your world. You're trying to meet in a middle ground to teach not just the students but the families and try to benefit, try to help, try to have parent participation, try to have family participation to help that student grow. And that means that understanding the demographics of the families you are teaching is priority. The more you know about the area of your families, let's say that again. The more you know about the area of the families that you are teaching, the better connection and understanding you can have with them. This is not just with special education. This does not have to go with just special education. Obviously, with special education, it gets deeper with that. So not only just knowing the demographics, some of the students, if depending on the needs of or disabilities of a student, uh, communicating with a parent, a family member, or just someone from the area who that student is accustomed to, there might be a different way or lingo that they speak, they understand. There might be triggering things to say that might not hit to a point with that student. You only know that understanding the demographics of the families. You got to understand that. So I understand that me working at Wilbur Elementary School, Wilbur's in Bear, Delaware. If I mention or try to relate to a student by bringing up something with that is more related to Newcastle or Southbridge, Wilmington area, like just the area itself, that student might not understand that. But if I have to try to relate to something that's maybe near Townsend or Middletown or more of a rural thing, even Delaware City, that student might understand more of the concept of what I'm trying to say. And there is different ways to say it. There is. Um, why is parent participation important? Which we've already gone over, but to even explain more, parent involvement is major for the progression of a student during the school year. Not just special education students, I want to put that down, but all students. All students. Parents have information from home that as educators we can benefit from. Both students, both the students' strengths and weaknesses. Again, like we were talking earlier, parents have information that from home that they have with their child that could be a strength or weakness that an educator can benefit from knowing. So if I know that if this student has a vision impairment and they do their work better in a darker set area, instead of me finding that out throughout the year, I could simply just communicate with the parent. Hey, what are some of the benefits? How do they work best? And you write down. You can even have a pros and cons list. That's another resource that you can take from here. Have a pros and cons list. Tell parents, hey, fill this out. What are some pros and cons of your student with their disability? That's something that you can also have. Changes we notice in the classroom need to be communicated to parents. Parents can also update us with changes in that child's home life. That just goes with simple communication, and there needs to be transparency between both. Obviously, you have your notes here and there that you speak with your counselor or general education team. However, if there's something that changes in this student's life, and maybe the student's not good with change, a lot of younger students are not good with change. If something changes in the classroom, it might affect the way that student acts, not in the classroom, but maybe even the way that student acts at home. Or if something drastically happens with the child at home, we need to know that as educators because then we can address it. I just saw before we move on, I just saw something and I couldn't even put it in the slideshow here because it was literally right before we started. I went on Twitter, which we'll talk more about social media and the impact and effects that we can have as educators using that. But social media, with Twitter, it had something that a teacher put. Um, it was kind of like a code phrase for a parent to use, and if something in the child's life happened at home, or they had a bad day, or had a really horrible night, or there's a fight in the family, or a really rough weekend, or then you can email the teacher that code word with a brief sentence of what's going on, so the teacher would understand going into the next day or the next time they see the kid. Hey, I understand they're going to come in with this type of thing. I can now get ready for that. That's something small and a very resourceful thing that could change everything. There's been several times, and we all know them, when a teacher is set on their rules, and this is how the classroom goes, and a student comes in and is having a horrible morning. If you've ever had a student have a horrible morning, you can just do this while you're watching. Yep, let's do this. Same, because we've all had those students just come in, they don't want to do anything. You want breakfast? No, I don't want breakfast. Stand up, moving stuff around, going to their friend's desk, not listening to anything. Hey, can you sit down? No, I don't want to. And you know what? Instead of saying, hey, they're having behavioral issues this morning, you can take a step back and say, hey, I'm missing something. Like what? Why is there such a drastic change? If it's not a drastic change, what is going on in this child's life where they believe this is okay? And that's when the parent participation and communication jumps in. And I actually like that resource that I saw on Twitter. It's very beneficial. Having a key phrase or a code phrase for parents to use to be able to email and get off information that might have happened more immediate, so that an educator knows ahead of time. That helps both parties. That lets the parent know, hey, I've addressed this teacher should know not to bring quote unquote up, or address with caution, approach with caution. But the teacher, it also helps because we know as teachers, hey, look, I would rather know when my students are going to come in like this because I have something set. Now I can have a break area. We'll add something more to the break area that day. Or you know what? Maybe, hey, look, before you get in, hey guys, take a deep breath before you come in. If you like, you can sit outside first and then come in. There's different ways, but if you know that ahead of time, you can then move accordingly. And why parent participation important again? There's no one as interested in and motivated to see a child succeed and thrive than their own parents. And this alone places the parent in a crucial role on the IEP team. Again, the IEP team is significant when special education. I'm going to say that one more time. The IEP team is a make or break. It's make or break for a child's success. An IEP allows you to it allows you to coach and guide your way to how should I teach this student and get the most out of this student's year and their brain. By doing that, parents and teachers, they don't have to be best friends, but they have to be on board. As a teacher, you have to make sure you let parents know, hey, I'm here for you and I'm here for this student's growth. So whatever we feel like is best, that's what we will say to you. If you feel like there's something it needs to be a very respectful conversation between the two. We will speak about that as well. Parent participation is required when dealing with IDEA. That is brought up 4 times already, and it will continue to be brought up because a lot of times, especially in some of these cases, we've realized that some teachers don't understand that it is required that parents are participating in IDEA. Now, the level of participation, there's something different with that. However, we we are going to discuss how to get parents more involved, and also why they should be involved. What is IDEA? Now, everybody obviously knows what IDEA is. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act ensures that all children with disabilities are entitled to a free, appropriate public education to meet their unique needs and prepare them for further education, employment, and independent living. Now, obviously, independent living is more for the older students. I am I'm currently teaching K through 5. You never know where I'm going to end up, but usually independent living and employment, that's for the older ages. However, it fits IDEA fits for all those students who have special disabilities. We're going to watch a quick video here, and then keep moving. Well, we will speak on those four. I didn't realize it cut off at that time, but I hope you guys understood that. That's just a real like a gateway to what we're going to be speaking about um here. And just to let you guys know, I have two screens up. I'm looking at the same slides here, but it's bigger. So when you see my head tilt, I'm reading and I can still see. So it says what is IDEA? Continued, because it kind of briefly went over that in the short 3-minute video. IDEA plays a tremendous role in parent participation. Under IDEA, parents have the rights to participate in meetings related to the evaluation, identification, and educational placement of their child. This directly speaks to IEP meetings and all decisions made surrounding a student with special services. IDEA guarantees the rights of parents formulating the necessary educational programs and decisions that will benefit their child. It is, therefore, important for parents to exercise their rights responsibly to guarantee the success of their child. And here, a great resource for a new teacher would be to read Teacher's Knowledge of Special Education Laws. Now, underneath here, well, in the slide, I, I'm looking at the slide and it has the links here, but I'm seeing on your screen it's not here. They will be uh, they will be posted, and all the resources will be on the slides. So once you're able to click on this, all the links will be in the slides once you click on them. For some reason, I don't see it in the slide, but the general education teacher is expected to make the necessary accommodations to the curriculum for the students with special needs in their classroom to meet academic standards. This reading selection helps general education teachers understand the purpose of why you need to know the special education laws. So, um, well, the one of the main reasons is so that you are always prepared to serve your students and parents with whatever information they will need. If a parent participates in wanting to better their child, and you are ill prepared, those faults will fall on you. So I feel like it's no, I don't feel like I know that it's better for a teacher to understand and know the special education laws for a parent's rights. So say we have a parent that is now, not to say now getting involved more, but a parent that wants to understand a little bit more of understanding what IDEA is and what the special needs laws are and special education laws are. It will fall on you as a teacher to at least give them the resources for themselves to educate themselves outside of the classroom. Um, the IDEA has a special provision for parent participation in placement decisions. Under this provision, state educational agencies and local school boards must ensure that the parents of a child with a disability are members of any group that makes decisions regarding the placement and LRE, least restrictive, of that child. Again, there's two resources here that should be underneath here. It is IDEA, the IDEA government site that has actually all the resources and principles that they listed as government on it. That's one of the links here, and also something that would help parents. Just a quick hit that will help parents, and you could possibly put on the website that you should put up, especially for your classroom in today's times, which we'll discuss later on. But it's called Parent Center Hub, and that is a website that I think is very beneficial for parents in learning IDEA, and it will come up more than once. So that's another resource you can use there. Um, Parental rights to IEP meetings. All right, hold on, guys. Here we go. Lost track a little bit there, but we're back. All right, so parent rights for IEP meetings. There's several parent rights, and we'll go over these quickly. All right, quickly because we have so much to go over here. Every parent has the right to participate in all decision-making meetings held in order to develop an IEP for their child. This is the fifth time we've mentioned this, and it's very important. So if you take anything from this presentation, understand that every parent has the right to participate in all decision-making meetings held in order to develop an IEP for their child. In fact, it should be promoted. by the teacher. If you feel like the energy is not given there, you should promote it as much as possible that, hey, you should come to this or read about this, because the more the parent is involved, the better it should help the teacher. These meetings are backed by FAPE. We all know is free appropriate public education. In the case of any changes in identification, evaluation, and educational placement initiated by the school district, the parent has the right to receive a prior written notice. Parents also have the right to provide an informed written consent for the special education IEP before the assessment process or the provision of special education and related services. Any parent who has a child enrolled in special education and possesses an IEP has the right to inspect, evaluate, and request copies of educational records. And as a teacher or an educator, you should not feel some type of way when a parent requests these things. I know that's something separate, but a lot of emotions are touched when parents are extremely involved, and some educators are upset about that. Embrace it. Embrace your parents being more engaged, because it takes less pressure off of you having to be the superhero in every situation when it comes to a child. Parental rights to IEP meetings, and we continue. In the case of any complaints concerning the provision of FAPE, to the child, parents have the rights to a hearing. All right, so they feel like you are not being their child is not being given the free appropriate public education that they feel is necessary, they have the right to a hearing. Um, Parents have the right to disagree with any proposals presented to change their child's placement. When a disagreement surfaces, the child should remain in their current program until resolved. It's pretty self-explanatory there. And when a disagreement arises, parents are free to seek voluntary and impartial mediation to help find a mutual agreed upon solution regarding the child's special education IEP. Um, Children enrolled in special education have specific rules regarding their suspension or expulsion. If these instances extend for more than 10 days, an IEP meeting should be called to assess how their disability could be contributing to the child's misconduct. Um, Parent involvement in learning IDEA laws. To help parents and students with special needs rights, it might be in the best interest of the student to have a way for parents to read about IDEA laws. Even posting a video of you briefly summarizing what IDEA is, and then allowing parents to take different resources to help them. That will be beneficial. The best resources for parents to learn about IDEA are these two websites underneath, and it's the same websites I was telling you about. I believe you see them here now connected. ParentCenterHub.com, or I lied, ParentCenterHub.org, and sites.ed.gov. or slash IDEA. I'm gonna say that again. Sites.ed.gov/IDEA. And again, we can't get upset at parent participation when there's a lack of information given to parents. We should not expect parents to understand all the laws surrounding their student who has special needs. We need to be a beacon of information. Like, we need to give information if we have it. If we know a place where the teachers, if we know a place where a parent can easily learn the rights or understand more of the situation with IDEA law, then we need to give that out, because the more information given to parents to help their student grow, the better it helps you as a teacher help that student grow. Um, Communication is key, and that is something we will touch also later in this presentation. I believe the last slide is very important. It's a video that I love to see, but like previously mentioned, as an educator, you need to try and understand what best works for you, your parents, and utilize that. One great example of understanding your parents is adapting of the times today. We are in a technology-driven world, so it might work best for you to communicate with innovative ways with technology. I'll say this right now: we just went through no, I'll take it back. We're still going through a pandemic with COVID. Once we went to COVID, I know a lot of the veteran teachers who work at Wilbur, they were having a lot of issues with the teaching, because they didn't understand how to communicate or educate using as much technology as we were asked to use. We were asked to use Zoom. We were asked to hold parent conferences through Zoom. We were asked to We've had IEP meetings through Zoom, and everything's recorded, so it was okay. It's actually better that it's recorded because you can always go back and kind of look at what was said, what things are being discussed. However, um, there's another side of using technology that I believe is not used as much today. Using social media to communicate with parents. This is coming from someone who I'm a little younger, and after seeing some of the veteran teachers who I've learned so much from, I was then put in a situation where now I'm the educator in regards to teaching them. A lot of their parents weren't responding to some of the things they were doing. A lot of the parents weren't even communicating through emails and phone calls, and we're living in a different time. And social media, in different aspects and different ways, especially if you have a private, you can make yourself a separate private account on any of these: Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. If you do, you make a separate uh separate name. You can have your own personal account, but then you have separate, and they should both be private to help you out. And using social media in the classroom is a quick way to keep the parents involved as well as connecting to the students. You can use social media platforms to keep parents informed with upcoming projects, meetings, or even homework. Also, slight updates of class progression. The accounts can all be private, and so no one but those involved in your classrooms can see the students. So only parents of those kids, and only, maybe if you have those kids. If those You have now connected and made a family by just having that. By just having that. Um, and you can also update things. You can post on your Snapchat or TikTok by learning. And there's different videos, which I believe we have a couple here coming up, but we're not going to play those videos. We're just going to have those information there for you in this presentation. Um, Social media allows parents to participate virtually, even when they might not be able to as consistently as they want. We all know that one parent that would love to be involved. They email a lot, but they can't really see us a lot. They can't come to parent conferences. They have work a lot of this time. Sometimes the kid goes to YMCA after the school or some type of aftercare. They don't get picked up till 6 or 6:30 when the parent gets off. We know that person, and we have to work with them. And this is Technology allows us to reach those parents, those families, those students that we might not have reached before because now they have a time to respond at their own time, virtually or visually or even through social media. However, you should not hold conversations through social media regarding individual students with parents. All discussions about in particular student should be direct phone calls, meetings, or emails. All right. So if it's something very serious, that a parent wants to tell you about, or an issue or concern that a parent has with something that they're with their students, something that you've posted, something that's going on in the classroom, something that's going on at the home, that should not be communicated through social media messages. And you just, as long as you communicate with the parents and let them know the rules of social media and know the rules of communication, it will be known. You can even put this in a post from one of your social media accounts. And some examples of social media that you can use is Facebook. I put groups in there in parentheses because it doesn't have to be just a Facebook page. You can make a Facebook group for your classroom. So specifically your classroom, and every time that you have somebody go there, it could be a private group. You have to be, again, a parent or guardian on the list, wherever list you have, and put that list down. And then you have your students. So you only have your students and your parents who are able to look at stuff, and you can update different things that you have, maybe weekly. Sometimes you can even do it monthly. You don't have to do it every day. However, keeping it updated, it makes the parent feel like they're engaged into what their students are doing. They understand. Oh, okay, well, you guys are learning this. You guys are doing this. Okay, I feel it's a way better way of communication, and it's way more modern. This is a definite way to increase your parent participation and engagement. It makes them feel like they are involved, and they are involved and engaged in what you are learning in your classroom. Social media is an easy setup that will allow students and parents another gateway of participation, which might encourage more face-to-face communication. I've connected all the social media apps that I believe help as much. I even put Classroom website there, which we're not going to click on and go on just for time purposes. Uh, the source of social media I think best helps with parent participation are Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Facebook, Zoom for conferencing and other works. And then setting up a Classroom website. Now we can literally have this. We can have a Classroom website. If you set up a TikTok, a Facebook, and an Instagram, you can put a link to all three of those apps on that website. On the website, you also have tabs that break down what you guys are doing in each unit. It can be small worksheets, it can be things that they can do from home. You can also have a tab on your website. You can also have a tab on your website that might be just some games to work on, some ELI games, some math games, some quizzes, simple things that you might be able to connect with the student and connect with the parent in the room, and it feels like you're bringing that room to that student's environment outside of the classroom, and that's always a great thing. We talked about Instagram, and this is how to use Instagram to connecting content and change. For time purposes, we won't go through this, but it is in the presentation. So if you'd like to go back and play this, let me go ahead. Snapchat and TikTok, both quick apps, 50-second videos that we recorded, which you can edit. Classroom website, I put Squarespace up there because I use that for my basketball team that I coach, but you can also use Class Dojo. It's another how to start a Squarespace, a beginner tutorial. For you to click on, you may use this outside of here. You should have this link to the presentation in your email after this. RTI, which as a math interventionist, I see RTI a whole lot. Schools are faced with identifying the strengths and needs of learners from increasingly diverse cultural, linguistic, ethnic, religious, and socioeconomic backgrounds. The easiest way to receive this information is to connect with parents. I'm going to say that again. By finding all this information, the easiest way to do that is just connecting with the parents. The response to intervention model was created to support early intervention in the general education setting. This model is used for all students, regardless of their abilities. RTI signifies a change or absence of academic performance or conduct due to targeted instruction. For a successful RTI program, it is recommended the use of 4 core principles. This is what they were speaking of a little bit earlier. Effective instruction, frequent assessments, immediate response, and collaboration with home. RTI is typically used to support academic difficulties, but it can be also to support social emotional behavior. Family and cultural factors, which is spelled wrong, and I'm sorry for that. Family and cultural factors shape student behaviors. When these attributes and values are understood, school personnel can begin to identify how some behaviors may actually serve as a function of cultural values instead of deviant responses to classroom values. Only then can schools assist families with helping students to gain new repertoires or behavior needed for academic success in the school setting. For more on the impact, of the impact and importance of RTI and participation and how this can benefit both parties, the resources attached at the end of the presentation. Again, I've attached the RTI resources at the end of the presentation. I felt like I didn't know how the screencasting was going to go, I'll be honest. And also, it's hard to get the links going back and forth from the slide. Like Xing out the slide and then click on the link, then going back into the thing. knowing my computer, it would blow up if I tried to do all that. But again, the RTI resources should be attached at the end of the presentation, or if not, we're attached separately with the submission of this presentation. Um, I've also attached, which you'll see at the end of this presentation, because it was in a Word document, so I couldn't actually get it on here. It's a parent-guardian communication log. It's something I created for myself when I started teaching math intervention. It allows me to track all vital information from the conversation with the parent. This is good for archiving events and being able to go back to confirm what was said. This can also be used to cover your bases as a teacher if something were to ever go wrong or things being taken out of context. So again, a parent guardian communication log, and I will have this in. I will submit the parent and guardian communication log at the end or with the presentation with it, but I don't have it on the slide because it was a Word document and it would not submit a Word document onto a Google slide. However, a parent guardian communication log, it's simple as this. If you email or have a phone call or maybe even a Zoom or face-to-face communication, you have a call log or a communication log. You write down your date, when you had this conversation, who the conversation was with, what the conversation topic was about, what the were there concerns, were there pros, were there positive marks. You write down everything, and so by doing that, you can now have that archive. That communication was had. This was talked about, and you can move forward knowing what to address going forward with that student or that parent. It's helped me a lot with math. Interventions helped me communicate because you have to communicate not only with the parents. As a math intervention, you have to communicate with their teacher and the parent first. Like it's a triangle to some extent, and then use uh, after speaking with everyone in communicate with that, you then move on and make your changes that you need to. But using the communication log, it makes it easier for you to track and uh, have that vital information needed necessary there. Um, all right, parent engagement survey. Uh, Delaware Department of Education contracted with the University of Delaware Centers for Disability Studies (CDS) to conduct a survey. The survey was developed collaboratively between Delaware Departments of Justice and Education and staff from CDS. 10 questions about parent satisfaction. It's been a long day, guys. Satisfaction with the IEP process that were rated using a Likert scale. All right, so let me click on this here. Even though I just said I wasn't going to do it, I'll try it, but it's probably going to mess us up a little bit here. All right, so we're going to be looking at a survey. We're actually looking at the Delaware Department of Education's their slideshow of the surveys that they took here, and I wanted to show you guys actually the information they got from the survey. Because I thought it was very useful or beneficial what they got from it. So it says here, the parent engagement survey, which they're speaking of, surveys sent to all families of a student with an IEP in Delaware. Surveys are mailed. Now, you kind of break the parent survey down a little bit smaller as an educator. So for you as an educator, instead of sending it to every student with an IEP in Delaware, you're only focusing on those students in your classroom with an IEP. Okay? If you don't want to exclude anyone, you can send it to everyone, but you would maybe even make two different ones, or you can just send to those students who have IEPs or the family with students of an IEP. And from there, you go to, bear with me guys, I'm trying to make sure I don't lose. Okay, yeah, I'm good. I should be good. All right. Okay, I should be good. So you want to send that survey out to the families of an IEP student in your classroom. You have different questions on there to learn more about their backgrounds, which you talked about. You want to be more engaged with the parent and the family and where they're from, the socioeconomic background of that student. It might help you. It might understand. It might help you understanding what their religion is and what their triggers are, with things like that. And make sure as a teacher you're not judgmental in anything that is told through these surveys. Um, I shouldn't have to speak more on that, but just to be sure, yeah, if they're learning their culture, you might learn a lot from parent surveys that can help you as a teacher move forward with just setting up IEPs, how to instruct that student specifically with an IEP or with a special need. There's a lot of benefits that you would get from a survey given to all the IEP. And not only would you give that survey at the first part of the month or the first part of the year, I think you should give a survey more than once, maybe twice a year. Um, yeah, because things will change in a year, and you know how things change drastically. Okay, all right. What are we doing? Okay, there we go. Parent input forms, something that, so this could be well, you need parent input forms before IEP meetings, especially the first IEP meeting, for almost a similar reason for the surveys. Tell student strengths, student interests, student needs, the parent feels or sees there. And after going into that, you then look at that. Maybe you can kind of get a grasp of what needs to be talked about in the first IEP meeting, what strengths you'll see, what things you saw, what link up, what you compare, contrast, and what you've seen. Make sure you take notes as well from different students and what you're also notes so that you can go with the parent input form. Um, we've been talking about a little bit family demographics and diversity. Very important, especially to the times that we're in today. Um, a lot of blended families, and there should be not a lot of judgment when it comes to a teacher. A teacher is someone who's teaching education and morals of manners. That's always what I felt. To support functional and meaningful parent participation, practitioners need to address families, not even practitioners, but educators itself, need to address families' diverse backgrounds. Without understanding a family's background information, there will be a missing link in trying to connect with that family. That doesn't mean you have to agree with that family, but it does mean that you have to understand that family. It's not for you to change anything in their background information that's against the law, but you need to uh, you need to understand your family's background information for you to be some type of help in trying to understand or trying to connect with that student. Parents share cultural values, beliefs, rules, and expectations with their children, transferring patterns of behaviors and uh, cognitions to their to their children. For that reason, while working with parents, it is imperative to consider early intervention services with respect to the families' diverse backgrounds. A true equal partnership may not be established if educators perceive diversity as a barrier. I'll say that one more time because that's important, and what we just spoke about in the last slide. A true equal partnership may not establish, may not be established if educators perceive diversity as a barrier. To promote parent involvement, educators or practitioners, whichever you'd like to say it, need to respect, recognize, and respond to diversity of family needs and interests. I'm going to say that again, that's important. To promote parent involvement, practitioners need to respect, recognize, and respond to diversity of family needs and interests. To click on this, go to right here, family diversity. All right, it's a 22 page. It's not really. It's an essay, but it actually just gives you tips in different scenarios and situations on how you, as a teacher in family diversity, would help you best your communication and your relationship with your students. It's a good read. It's a pretty quick read. You can take your time on it. Practice for parent participation in early intervention, early childhood special education, and also Again, this is the third time we've mentioned it, so it's obviously something you should probably look into. But ParentCenterHub.org. Again, ParentCenterHub.org. Um, Several different outlets here. It actually sent me to the homepage, but that's fine as well. Um, yeah, it has different things around the nation that would help parents understand their their children with disabilities, special needs, different updates with laws, and I think it's smart for a teacher or an educator to also keep up to date. So maybe it'd be smart to use this as well, and that's why it's here as a resource for you. Communicating with respect. Um, this is for everything in the world. There's a lot more respect needs to be uh, showered across the world here. But respect is the foundation of effective communication with parents, careers, um, parents, carers, or and families. Respect will help you better understand the parents. Um, it's parents, careers, and families that you work with. This includes respect for every family's religious and cultural background, values and beliefs, and languages. That's important. Languages. Just because someone does not speak the same language as you, that does not mean they lack the education that you have. That means that there's a barrier in understanding in understanding what is being said. That's simple. That's it. Um, that's why they have translators, and that's why you continue to learn. Parenting arrangements, gender diversity, circumstances which a kid is living in, whether they're homeless, they're not homeless, it doesn't matter. We're here for the success of a student. Working with interpreters. Can you think of some ways yourself of respecting parents to build trust? And I'll let you guys sit on that for a little bit, for about 10 seconds. Again, can you think of some ways of respecting parents to build trust? And the resources that we went over here, that the links will be at the end of the presentation. But also, if you go back, there should be links. If you click on the sides, there should be links in the slides here. How to create a website, social media engagement that would also go into the website. Those are small ways to keep a parent engaged, and slight things and trinkets and hints that you can throw at parents to keep them engaged. Understanding a parent's background and diversity information, not just a parent, but the family itself. Survey for parents. All right, finding that out, like just have a survey for parents. Communication log. It's very important because the more that you archive what you've been said or what has been said or what has happened, the more you cover your tracks as an educator. Student family home assignments. We briefly went over that. So you can kind of engage with a social media engagement or website, but after learning more about a family's background, have those families have assignments like, and by assignments being like, hey, you're in charge of the TikTok this week. Show us around, like show us what you like to do on your weekends. Little small things like that, which you can have an extra 5 points, and every person, every there's enough weeks in the year where every student would be able to have a chance to do that. But that's involving family into your classroom, and that also involves parent participation. That's something that can light up the entire school year with just that one weekend if you give them the opportunity to do that. IDEA refresher for parents. Many links for parents to understand and learn more IDEA laws. Which you can kind of put on your website. Not kind of, you can put on your website. Um, just make sure you give the parents different resources on the website, or not even just the website, even if it's handheld. But in today's world, it's probably better to just be virtual with things. And last but definitely not least, a parent input form at the beginning and the end of the school year. So a parent input form for their student with special needs will definitely benefit all parties because you get to understand what the strengths and weaknesses are of that student prior to even getting a real relationship or go at learning who that student is. Um, oh, I have some digital stats here that I thought, or some stats to back the chat up that we've been talking a long time here. I thought these were pretty interesting stuff here. One third, 32% of parents reported high levels of involvement with the IEP progress or process. It's only one third. It's pretty low. More than half, 50%, 56% of parents reported moderate levels of IEP involvement, and 11% indicated low IEP involvement. Sad, to say the least. Parents whose children were 5 to 10 years old of age reported greater involvement in the IEP process, whereas parents whose children were in the 10 to 18-year-old range indicated less involvement. So, I think that everything that we've learned a little bit today would help in every aspect of all these stats grow to some percentage, and that these stats are for the nation, but it also goes along with Delaware as well for Colonial School District. We're going to get into the cases that we want to talk about here. The cases with problems of parent participation. Just brief going over Doug C. versus Hawaii, the Andrew F. versus Douglas County, Winkleman versus Palm School District, Byard versus Rose, and Amanda C. versus Clark County School District. To briefly go through Doug C, because this is also something that I did for a class in my master's. To break down a summary of it, the central issue in this case is whether the department's efforts to include Doug C in the November IEP meeting are sufficient to meet the requirements of the IDEA. This was extremely important for parents' involvement during IEP meetings. On December 6, 2013, Doug C., the father of Spencer, the son's name was Spencer, he requested a due process against the Hawaii Department of Education. The department violated the IDEA's explicit parental participation requirements, the same requirements we were talking about in this presentation. The department held Spencer's annual IEP meeting without parental participation, even though Doug C. did not firmly refuse to attend, but rather actively sought to reschedule and then want to participate. The IEP meeting in question changed Spencer's placement from Horizons Academy, a private special education facility, to the workplace readiness program at Maui High School. They changed the academy where Spencer was going to school without letting Doug C. approve of it. I'll be honest, I can't pronounce the name as well, but Wayo decided to go forward with the meeting on November 9th as scheduled. He testified that he had already asked 13 people on 3 separate occasions to change their schedules and cancel other commitments to schedule the meeting, and that would not matter because the parent matters. The parent matters. I think they didn't remember that. So the decision at the end, with these key participants absent, the IEP team changed Spencer's placement from the Horizon Academy to Workplace Readiness Program at Maui High School in order to ensure that the rights of children with disabilities and parents of such children are protected. The IDEA guarantees a free appropriate public education to children with disabilities when analyzing whether an agency provided a student a FAPE. There's a 2-part inquiry. Second, we must determine whether the IEP is reasonably calculated to enable the child to receive educational benefits. The courts ruled in favor of Doug C. because of those 2 reasons previously mentioned there. All right, so Doug C. again won that case because Hawaiian that the school that Spencer was going to held an IEP meeting without the parent being there, and then changed things in the kid's IEP, not the kid, but in Spencer's IEP meeting, or changed settings in Spencer's IEP without the parent agreeing on it or being present when the changes were being made. That violated Doug C. and Spencer's IDEA rights. And by knowing your rights, you then can fight for your student or your child. This is also important. That's why the parents should know their IDEA laws and rules or regulations. And as a teacher, I feel like you can at least guide them to the resources of that. The Andrew F. Douglas County case. The parents argue that their child with autism did not make measurable progress on his IEP goals, and that the school failed to address his worsening behavior problems. The parents advocated for a heightened, meaningful educational benefit standard. At the end of this, um, they felt as if that the IEP, not even the IEP, they felt as if that their student was not getting, their student was hitting the IEP goals, but they weren't any standards that were being higher. Like the measurable standards weren't, the student wasn't benefiting from it. After leaving the school and then going somewhere else, it immediately got better. Um, there was a case being made that Douglas County did not do it what they should have to best seek the student's success and get better. And that's exactly what the case was. The school district was actually doing the bare minimum to make sure that they were getting a free, appropriate public education. But at the end of the day, it wasn't free, appropriate public education because it wasn't. They weren't pushing that student to the heights that they should have been. And in his opinion, Chief Justice Roberts wrote, "A student offered an educational program providing merely more than the minimum progress from year to year can hardly be said to have been offered an education at all." And that is why Andrew F. They won that case. Winkleman versus Parma School District. And all these, I have the links for the cases at the end. Supreme Court rules that parents may represent their children's interests in special education cases and are not required to hire a lawyer before going to court. IDEA requires school districts to develop an IEP for each child with disability, with parents playing a significant role in this process. Jacob has autism spectrum disorder and is covered by the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. As amended, the question in this case was if the parents had rights all along with their child, or if they don't have any rights to decide if they want to represent counsel for Jacob. Courts were hesitant to allow Winkleman's appeal to the decision. Parents challenged the administrative decision, alleging, among other matters, that Jacob had not been provided with a free, appropriate public education. This is the third case in a row that this seems like there was a case that his IEP was inadequate and that the school district had failed to follow procedures mandated by IDEA. In an opinion written by Justice Kennedy, the court concluded that the rights IDEA grants parents encompass a child's entitlement to a free, appropriate public education and that these rights are not limited to procedural or reimbursement issues. Um, oh, almost went past it. All right, Byard versus Rose. Actually, to go back here, this um, this affects parent participation specifically because um, to me personally, I felt like it was intimidating. They were almost trying to intimidate them, the parents, not to participate in Jacob's case. Uh, I don't know necessarily about the reimbursement issues. I think that's a step above educating. But in this case here, if which he was right, Winkleman felt that the IEP was inadequate, and in that situation, he was right. If you go ahead and click the link that's on here, if you go ahead and read it, he's right because I felt like the teacher didn't give enough care for the IEP or writing down notes. Make sure that you, as a teacher, just make sure you care because parents and students see it when you don't, and it affects not just that student; it affects you when you don't. And this is a perfect case for that. Um, Byard versus Rose. Kirsten Byard suffered frequent illness due to sinus complications. She was chronically absent from school. The number of absences was unsettling to Miss Rose. I'll tell you right now, this was a unbelievable case. I read this maybe 3 times because I couldn't believe what was actually it was a wild ride. Miss Rose contacted Kirsten's father. Concerned about the absences, her father said Kirsten would maintain good standing by learning the songs and dances in her class. Miss Rose told Kirsten that she would not be considered for the lead role because of her absence. Kirsten attempted suicide through overdose of ibuprofen. Her reasoning was Miss Rose only giving her a minor role. Several days later, Kirsten was diagnosed with severe depression, and her mother informed the school, including the counselor and Miss Rose. After reporting back to school, Miss Rose announced in front of the entire class that Kirsten was no longer in the play. After being asked by Kirsten's mother, she was not allowed back in the play afterwards, after that statement was added. After Miss Rose humiliated Kirsten by mandating her attendance policy in front of the class and allowing sarcastic remarks from students to be allowed regarding Kirsten, she had an emotional and mental breakdown. Kirsten's grandmother attempted to sit in on the choir practice but was barred from the entire practice without reason. Kirsten's mother filed cases against Miss Rose, Principal Cohen, and the Fairfax County School Board under Title II of the ADA and the intentional infliction of emotional stress under Virginia law. The district court concluded that the allegations of Barr's complaint demonstrated that she was not discriminated against on the basis of her depression. Okay. So even though I feel like they didn't win the fight that they were going against, as an educator, we do not understand or know what's going on at a student's home. We have to always take a step back and remember that. Whether it's special education or those students with special needs, or if it's a regular general education, just a regular, or if it's just a student without special needs. Kirsten was dealing with a lot in her life at the time, and Miss Rose, some reason, was not bending on simple and small things in her room that would allow the decency or the happiness of one student. I feel like Miss Rose was a very unempathetic person here. She didn't get in Kirsten's shoes at all. She contacted the father. You would think that, hey, maybe just instead of telling her about the absences, after being told, what the situation is, then you kind of bend a little bit. As a basketball coach, if I call a parent and say, hey, so and so was acting a little upsetting today at practice, I didn't like it, and they said, yeah, well, got to mention I didn't tell you so and so is having a really bad time or really hard time with this and health reasons, and you know what? Okay, thank you for letting me know that. I'll tread lightly and understand the situation better. You move forward and understand and adapt to the situation that's put in front of you. Miss Rose never did that. Instead, she decided to make Kirsten the outcast just so she can put her as a example of her rules. And I felt, as a teacher, this was horrible, horrifying to say the least. Yeah. And last, but okay. All right, here we go. Last but definitely not least, Amanda C. versus Clark County School Districts. Amanda was evaluated by a psychologist and a speech pathologist through Clark County School District in Nevada. Both evaluation reports indicated that the child demonstrated autistic-like characteristics and that further assessments were needed. After the initial IEP meeting, the parent were given a 2-page summary of the evaluation reports, which did not indicate any concern with autism. As a result, Amanda only received special education services to address her, it says here what it means, her development delays, and neglected any of her autistic-like needs. Parents did not receive any of the assessment records reporting that the child had demonstrated autistic-like characteristics until a year later when they moved to California. Amanda went for a year without any services to address her autism needs. Parents requested a due process hearing, alleging that the district denied their child FAPE, a free appropriate public education, by not disclosing to the parents the child's evaluation reports and not offering the appropriate services. The court found that the school district's failure to disclose the assessment reports indicating Amanda's autistic-like behaviors, Amanda's parent the right to participate in the development of Amanda's IEP led to Amanda receiving an IEP that did not provide appropriate services for her unique education needs, thereby denying a free, appropriate public education. This is pretty black and white, pretty simple. Um, um, what's it called? Both evaluations from Clark County School District prior to the school year um, said that she had autistic-like characteristics. After the initial IEP meeting, the parents were given a two-page summary of the evaluation report, and they said that they weren't even addressing that she had autistic issues. And I feel like that right there is a lack of communication. Somehow, in the initial IEP meeting, the parent you should be asking the strengths, weaknesses, or concerns prior to the IEP meeting for a parent. That parent would immediately say, hey, well, both evaluation reports indicate that the child demonstrated autistic-like characteristics, and that's the Clark County District. If the parent says that, now it's on your list. It's not the parent's fault, it's yours. You need to give an option as a teacher, find ways to communicate with your parents at all moments. That means an entire year went past. A year went past without maybe the parents didn't understand their rights. Maybe the parents thought that something was happening and it wasn't. And then the fact that the assessment reports, for some reason, they weren't giving them to the child. The parent it has the right under IDEA for all assessments, to see all assessments, to have all assessments, and to deny that. Not only are they denying the IDEA right to the parent, but they're also denying free, appropriate public education because it wasn't appropriate since they didn't have the the autistic services to help Amanda. Um, 5 cases that were really loaded there. And again, this will be all on the presentation that will be submitted, so you guys will have this. And last but definitely not least, communication is key. Last video we will watch, and then we are finished. All right. And to finish this off, remember communication is key. You want to get your parents involved as much as possible. Um, Thank you guys for tuning in. If any questions, you can just email me here and at alewis022 at my.wilmu.edu. You have a good rest of your day.